have a starter kit for resin but don't know how to get started? Welcome to Resin Along with Steffy Jewels. So, you got a resin kit like what you see here on the screen. Well, today I will show you how to make a pendant using UV resin. Now, if your kit came with a two-part epoxy like you see over here on this side, then click the card above or the link in the description down below and I'll show you how to make a pendant using the two-part epoxy resin. But today we'll be working with the UV resin in your kit. So to start with our UV resin, I'm gonna go ahead and move the two-part epoxy kit out the way so that way you can kind of just focus on one kit at a time. So I'm gonna go ahead and move these just out of the way because today we're just gonna do pendants using UV resin. Now I'm gonna go ahead and keep these molds here because you could also use these same molds along with your UV resin kit. So let's get started on what you need to do to start with UV resin. First, you would need to practice safety measures. So as you can see on my screen here, and I'm gonna back out a little bit so you can see this. I do have some gloves. You do need gloves when you work with any type of chemicals, so you don't have any type of chemicals on your skin. Excuse me. You do need a mask. Now, some kits will actually give you one of these cloth masks here, which is why I have one here. Or you can pick up one of these masks, N95 mask, or ventilator. You do want to wear a mask and gloves when working with any chemical such as UV resin, as you don't want to inhale it because you might have some type of reaction to it, or it might actually touch your skin and you might have a reaction with it as well. Another thing you need to consider is you need to be in a well-ventilated room. Now, I'm actually in a 10 by 10 bedroom, which is basically my craft room. So I do have my windows open to work on this project, as well as I do have some incense kind of blowing in the background to kind of help mask some of the smell that some UV resin will give out. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you the supplies I have in this kit that I received. Now, I purchased this kit actually overseas from a company in China, but you can also get the same kit, which I found this exact same supplies on Amazon, and I will put a link down below in the description on where you can get this UV resin kit that I purchased overseas. It does include your UV resin, and this is just a brand that they have. You know, any brand will actually work. I'm sure you can see that. But yeah, any brand will work for UV resin as long as it says UV resin. And if you're not familiar with UV resin, I do have a video as well for that, which I'll put that in the link down below as well on what is UV resin and how to use it. So if you have never worked with UV resin before, I do suggest to watch that video first, so that way you can kind of get an idea of how to actually use UV resin. But today I'm just going to show you how to work on using it as making a pendant, because if you're a beginner, you're going to probably get a kit first. But as you can see, there's so much stuff here. And let me put that back in focus. There is so much stuff here that you probably get overwhelmed and don't know what to start with first. And the easy thing I always tell anybody who's a beginner is make something simple. So that way you can kind of get a feel for it and learn how to use the actual products. And then kind of branch out to something bigger, like, you know, maybe bigger molds. But as you can see, these molds is very small, and this is just a silicone mold. You do want to make sure your kit is silicone, which most resin kits are silicone. They might come plastic, but I do think the silicone works better because it just lasts a little bit longer. It's easier to pop stuff out for it. So these are all silicone, as well as these pendants right here. I'm sorry, these molds, and this is too. Now, there are different types of molds you can use for UV resin. You can use, like I said, silicone molds, or you can use what they call open bezel molds, which means there's nothing here, just open. And that's why you will see in most kits you come with this tape here. This is a sticky size tape where when you actually take the tape out, you will place those actual pieces on here very well and make sure you kind of seal it so that way none of the liquid will go through the actual tape. And this tape is not like any package tape because it doesn't leave any type of sticky film on your actual open bezels. So you might see other YouTubers use package tape But one thing I have found out that if you use the tape that comes with resin or that's made for UV resin, that this right here that's sticky, as you can hear, it's kind of sticky on the camera. You will not have that stickiness residue left on your actual molds. Now your kit will come with, depending on which one you get, because there's so many kits out there on Amazon or anywhere where you decide to get it. They do come with these little flakes here, and these are just little foils that you can actually put inside your resin to kind of embellish your resin. Because right now, all you got is just resin and your mold. So if you pour this in here, this is pretty much a clear liquid, and put it inside a mold or anywhere in one of your actual open bezels, it doesn't look really pretty. So you kind of want to embellish it and make it look kind of neat. Now, this resins also come with the little cups here, this kit. So you have your mixing cups here where you can actually pour your resin directly into it, and you can mix your actual embellishments in it, as well as the actual UV resin ink. Now, this is actually called UV resin color ink, or color pigment, which means you don't have to actually mix the two here. So be very careful when you look at your UV resin kits, because sometimes, and I actually have an example of one that I bought here. This right here is called UV resin dye. I'm going to see if we can bring that closer so you can see that this is actually a dye. Oh, is it gonna get clear? I'm trying to get it clear for you. I'm not sure if it's going to be clear. Okay, there you go. Yeah, so it's a dye. It's a resin dye. So it's a little liquid dye, almost like food color. If you can see, it looks like food coloring. Whereas this one is actually UV resin with the color already in it. So with any type of dyes, you just make sure you kind of drop it inside your UV resin, and it actually will mix the color for you. Whereas these that I got with the kit, I can actually just mix it. I just got to pour it out the bottle as is, and whatever the color is on the bottle, like this one right here says ruby. This one right here is like red. So all I have to do is just take this and pour it directly in here, and then I can actually just use the color as is, or I can mix it with the actual stuff that comes with it. So when looking at your UV resin kit, make sure you kind of see which one is which, because you don't have to mix these two together, but you have to mix these two. So if you have a dye, or if it's a pigment dye, or anything that looks like food coloring, or has a liquid, or even alcohol, if it's anything that looks liquid like this, you would have to mix it into something else. Whereas these other ones, you can just pour out the bottle as is. So let me go ahead and get some stuff out the way, and we're going to start working on our very first pendants. Okay guys, so as you can see, I actually put a little sheet on my actual work surface to protect the work surface, and this is called a Teflon sheet. Basically you need something, whether it's a Teflon or wax paper or a silicone mat, to protect your work surface, as you don't want any UV resin to actually pour on there and mess up your surface. Now the good thing about UV resin, that it is a 1-part bottle, meaning you don't have to do any mixing, so it will not harden on you unless you put it under UV light. So if you do spill anything on your table or anything like that, you can pretty much wipe it up real quick with a baby wipe, or spray bottle with rubbing alcohol and kind of spray it down and wipe it up real quick. So just rule of thumb, you want to make sure you protect your surface no matter what resin you decide to use, whether UV resin or 2-part epoxy. So I got my surface protected, and I'm going to go ahead and, just like any other liquids you use, you want to make sure you practice safety first. So I will put on my gloves just to make sure I don't get none of the UV resin on my skin, as well as a mask, which I'm going to use my paper cloth mask as soon as I find out what I did with it. Well, there we go. I'm going to put the paper cloth mask on, just so I don't breathe too much of the fumes, because you don't smell much of the UV resin, but once it gets under the lamp, you will start smelling a little bit of that as it starts to cure. Also, you want to be in a well-ventilated room. I am in a 10 by 10 craft room right now of a bedroom, so I do have my windows open. It's a little crap because it is kind of cold out right now in Texas, so we got like 30-something degrees out here, so it's a little chilly, so it just crack a little bit. And I do have some incense actually burning behind me, so I can kind of mute the smell a little bit. So we're going to actually use both the silicone mold for our UV resin, as well as this open bezel one. So we're going to start with this one first. So the first thing you want to do, you want to kind of figure out, okay, what you want to make with your pendants. And as you can see, it's just a blank, simple mold you can use. So I'm going to use this one right here. And I decided, okay, I think I'm going to mix it with I'm gonna use some of this UV Resin inks. Right now I have red and white. So I'm gonna use these two first and kind of move this out the way. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the video, you don't have to mix this with any of the UV resin already, because the UV resin is already mixed with the ink here, so you just basically pour it directly out of the bottle. So I'm gonna take one of these mixing cups. I'm just gonna shake this up just to make sure there's nothing here. Actually, let me make sure if I have used this or not. Okay, so I have used this before, so I don't have to take out the seal. So I'm just gonna pour a little bit in here. I wanna make sure my mold is cleared and cleaned out. So I'm just gonna pour a little bit in here. Just a little bit, you know, because you don't know how much you want. So I'm just pour a little bit of that in there. And with my paper towel, I'm gonna wipe it off, because just practice safety. It's not gonna actually harden in there, but just to keep it nice and clean and nothing stick there. So I mixed it in my mixing cup, and the reason why I'm doing that and not pouring it directly into the mold, because I actually want to put some of this in it as well. Let me get a little closer so you can see what I got going on here. So, I'm gonna take off one of those gloves because it's hard to open that up a little bit. So now that I got that open, put my gloves back on. Yeah, I do reuse my actual gloves. I'm not sure you can see the shininess on it. So I reuse these gloves until I can't use them no more. So don't think you have to keep putting on new gloves. You can keep reusing them as long as they're dried. You won't have no issues with them. But sometimes it does get hard to open up stuff when you have that shiny stuff still stuck in there. So I'm going to take my little tweezers. You can use tweezers. You can use a toothpick. Just however's easier. I'm just going to take a couple of flakes and just kind of stick it in there. And I'm going to close this up, because like I said, these are like little foil flakes. So if you got a fan on in your room or have any type of fan, make sure you turn that fan off so this don't blow anywhere. And then with my actual tools here, I'm going to just stir it up real quick. Actually, that's kind of the wrong side. Let's stir it with this part. Just going to stir it up just like that. Just kind of stir it. You know, just to kind of mix it. Now, UV resin do have a little bit of bubbles on there. They're pretty easy to kind of pop. You can pop it with a toothpick, or you can get this lighter, you see it here on the screen, to kind of, you know, let the bubbles pop a little bit. So I'm just going to mix that in real quick. And you can see it don't look much. It just kind of give a little shimmery to your actual piece here. I'm just going to scrape this in here. And sometimes you got to use different tools to get it scraped. I'm just going to scrape it into one of the molds I'm using here. So scrape, scrape, scrape. Then want to get the flakes in here. And you always want to start with a little bit of resin first, because you never know if you're going to use a lot. So I would start with a little layer first, because I'm going to actually layer this. So right there, I have one layer of resin already in there. And you could just take a paper towel and just kind of clean it here. And then, of course, I can put more in it. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit more in there. What did I do with my red? Just add a little bit more to go on top of that. So just pour a little bit more in there. This time I put a little bit more into my cup here. And same thing, I'm going to take my flakes here. And I'm just going to, this time I'm just going to use this and just put a little more in here. And this time I'm using my toothpick to just scoop it in there easier. And then, so with that same toothpick, I'm just going to stir it in there. So I'm just going to stir it into this. Because it kind of mixed them flakes in there. So you can see the flakes are kind of mixing in there. And then I'm just going to pour it into the same mold. So I'm just going to, because I want to make this on top, because I want it to raise the liquid to come actually to the top of my mold. And you can see it's starting to actually move a little bit. Now, if I wanted to have half of this mold, like have a particular design, whatever here on that, I could have just poured a little bit and then cure it as is. So now that I have that piece in there, now I'm going to see, I see a little bubbles in there. So I'm going to take this lighter here, and I'm just going to run it over here real quick on top of this to kind of pop it. You can get as close as you can to your resin to pop it. It's not gonna burn anything, but just don't put the flame directly into it. But get as close as you can to it to kind of pop those bubbles. So I think most of those will pop. I see this, I feel it on the side, so I'm gonna try to get the sides of them close as I can. And I think that's it. I think I got a little bit too close. And then with my actual UV lamp, I'm gonna start curing it. Now, a little trick that I learned from somebody on YouTube, that with these are silicone masks, you could actually put your actual cup right here on top of it and cure this too. That way it's easy to clean up. So this is just a regular nail lamp that I did. So I'm gonna do this for 60 seconds. It comes in 99, 60, and 30 seconds. You want to, start up here up top and then bring it down after 10 seconds. So like I'll leave it up here for 10 seconds and then bring it down slowly till we hit the 50, and then I'll cover it up. So I'm gonna start with 60 here. You can see it's starting to count down. I'm gonna let it get down to 50. So you can see that real quick. It's going down to 50 seconds. And then slowly bring it down and cure it. Oh, it's not curing. Okay, let's try that again. I said, live TV right there for you right there. Not sure why that's kind of cut off on me. Okay, do this again. Not sure why I did that. So try it again. So 60 seconds, and then let it come down. Maybe because it needs to go like this. And then slowly bring it down. Okay, now that does not work too well. Not sure why I did that, why I cut off like that. So I hope my thing is not breaking on me. So let's see here. That's live video for you right there. So now we're gonna let that go right there. Usually, as I've done it before, I'm not sure why it kind of cut off me like that. That's usually weird. But I'm gonna let this count down till we get down to 30 seconds. I'm gonna speed this up a little bit, and then you'll see how it gets cured after that 30 seconds. So let me speed it up. Okay, so we're back now. So that actually cured right there for a minute. I usually do this about 2 times, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit this for 2 times because I like to cure between 3 to 5 minutes. So let me go ahead and do that off camera, and then we'll come back and do another layer to cover up the rest of it. So stay tuned, and this is Resin Along with Steffy Jewels. Okay, so I let this cure for about 5 minutes. I hit this button about 5 times. So this top portion is pretty much cured. Now, once you cure the top portion, you want to flip it over and actually cure the back side. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that for about 30 seconds. So I'm going to just cure it for 30 seconds just to kind of make sure that both sides are cured. Because a lot of times the UV light, it only penetrates the top of your actual resin piece and not the back of it. So by flipping it over here, you actually can make sure that both the front and the back side is cured. So that way you don't have any sticky residue anywhere. So that's a little tip right there for you guys. Always cure the front side, flip it over, and cure it again on the back side. And this can work for this one as well as the one you put on tape. So that 30 seconds is there. So now that is cured out. Now, what I was trying to show you originally, but I guess it was just too high up and too close to the thing, is you can go ahead and cure this as is. So all you gotta do is put your actual silicone mold over it and let it cure. And that way, once it actually hardens and cures a little bit, you can just pop that sucker out and it's just easier to clean instead of having to try to wipe it off with some tools here, like like I'm doing with these little utensils. So that's just a little tip for you as well too. But yeah, once you work with anything that's on silicone, just put it underneath your lamp or use your flashlight that's UV light and let it cure that way. Then the cleanup is a lot easier to flip off. So right now, I should be able to pop this off just like this. And there you go. Silicone is actually clean. And then do not throw these pieces out because you can actually cut this up and actually make your own little embellishment with the actual pieces that you cut. So always keep anything that you actually have the little scraps because they can work for something else. So now that I cured that layer up, I just want to touch it a little bit. And you do want to make sure that this is completely cool before you start to mold it or touching it. So you can kind of tell if it's cool by feeling the back of it. But since I only did half of the layer, and now I'm going to do another piece. So I'm going to go ahead and take this piece right here. And I'm going to use this white one. And I'm just going to open it to see if this is open, which it is. Once again, make sure you use your actual gloves. Because like I said, you never know if you have any reaction to it. And I know some people don't use gloves. Even me, sometimes I don't use the gloves on it when I do it, but it does get very sticky if it gets in your skin. So just get out of the habit of actually using gloves. So I'm just gonna put some white here. And this right here, even though it says white, it's pretty clear. It's just opaque white or translucent white. So I'm just gonna put that white in there, but I'm also gonna actually add a little color to it. So I think I'm gonna add these little blue flakes to it. So I'm gonna add some blue flakes to it. See if I can open it up with my gloves here. I can. And then use my tweezers. Also, I use my tweezers. I'm just gonna make sure I'm in the frame here. Just add a couple of flakes in here. Right there. There's little flakes in there, just so that way that opaque white is not just opaque. You can see some type of color mixed into it. And then, same as a toothpick, you're just gonna mix it with the flakes. And then I'm going to now just pour this on top of here. So I'm just gonna pour it right here. Definitely gonna make sure I cover up that part that I didn't get. And then I'm just gonna probably overlap a little bit over here. So yeah, so that just pour out all that out into my mold. And then I'm just gonna make sure that it is around here. And notice you can see in my mold here that I still have enough room to put more mold on here. So now I'm just gonna take, I'll probably just take the clear one here. Just take the clear one. I'm just gonna pour some on top just to kind of cover it up, to fill this up a little bit. So just a little bit here. And if you notice, it looks a little thick. I think this mold is, this UV resin is getting kind of old because it is coming out pretty thick here. And that's okay since I'm just sticking it in the mold here. But if you need it to be thinned out a little bit, then you might want to get you some more mold, because it means that not mold, some more resin. Because that just means that your actual resin that you have is probably getting old, because it shouldn't be this thick. But I don't remember if this mold was ever, I keep saying mold, sorry. I'm not sure if the UV resin was ever thin or not, because it came with the kit and I really didn't like that. I actually use this type of UV resin when I do my UV resin, because I didn't really like how this brand came, because I ain't never heard of this brand, but it just came with the kit. So I just got some better mold. I keep saying mold. I just got me some better resin to use based on what I've just been researching on what kind of resin I want. Now, since I did put a lot of that blue in there, that white in there with the blue flakes, I'm just gonna kind of mix it over here with it and just kind of layer it on top of the red one. Like I said, there's no rhyme or reason on what to do when you're making your actual pendants. Just kind of play around with it and see what looks good to you. And since we're just making a video for you guys, I'm just gonna add that in here. Kind of have like an ombre look here. And then I'm gonna make sure that I pop those bubbles. So once again, using this here, just gonna run across here. Make sure there's no bubbles here. I can pop off it. Don't get as close as you can to the resin, but not into it. You don't want to burn nothing. And then if you see any other ones, you can just kind of pop it. But I pretty much got it all popped. Because you don't really get much bubbles with the UV resin like you do with the epoxy resin. And I think a little piece of hair got in here. So I just want to take that out, because I do have a dog, so sometimes I have hair that just be flying in here that I didn't know they were. So same thing with this one. You're gonna go ahead and, put it on here and then slowly bring it down for about 10 seconds, because this helps it make sure that your piece don't crack a little bit and it doesn't have the edges. And then I just put it on top. And yeah, sometimes you will see a little flame or smoke on there. That's nothing. It's just because it's just basically trying to cure your resin. So don't panic if you see it. And it just, it's basically like it's cooking your resin right now. That's what the UV light's for. So it's gonna let that go down for about 20 seconds. Let that do the first minute. So you can see how that counts down. Now on this one here, I don't have to flip it to the back because I already have the one layer here. So once you have that first layer cured on the top and then you flipped it back on that one, you don't have to cure it no more after that. So there goes 1 minute right there. So I'm going to do it off camera for the next 4 more minutes because I like to do 3 to 5 minutes. One thing I wanted to say too, you can go outside to do the UV resin because this one works for UV, whether it's sunlight or a lamp. But I do recommend the lamp over the sunlight because right now it's cloudy outside. So if you don't have no sun, you can't use your pieces. So get you a lamp so that way you can kind of work in your house and not have to worry about going outside and try to get it out there in the sun. So I'm going to come back after I do this for the next 4 more minutes. So I'll be right back. Okay, guys, so I went ahead and cleaned out my 2 cups by letting the resin cure underneath my lamp and just peeled it off. So that's what you see right here. These right here are these 2 pieces that actually cure. So you can just hold on to these because you can cut these up and make your own little flakes for them. So I actually let this sit for about a couple minutes because you want to make sure that it's not sticky and it's not warm. So it's really fully cured. So now all you have to do is to mold it out. And you can see, you can twist it here. It's not flexible. It is cured completely. So that is how you make a simple pendant using your actual resin mold right here, a silicone mold. Nothing fancy right here. To actually complete this mold, all you need is some cords that you can loop it in here like I did on this piece right here. Or you can actually have a glue-on bell on it. So I just kind of glue the back of the bell on this end right here. And then you can loop your actual chain or whatever you want to do through that loop. Other ways you could do it is you could actually put a jump ring on it as well. So this right here, I use a jump ring. I actually have to sand it down a little bit because this actually is a little bit thicker, so you can kind of see it's pretty thick. So it's kind of hard to get a jump ring through here to kind of cover this up. So I just kind of sand it down a little bit so that way I can actually fit a jump ring on it. Or you can actually use is what they call a pinch bell. You just kind of pinch it in the middle, and then you have a loop here where you can kind of put your cord through or a jump ring on it, and it can be hanging like that. So that's just a couple ways to actually finish off your pendant if you're using one of these silicone molds. So now real quick, let me show you how to do it with an open bezel one. What I'm going to do is, actually I need to get some scissors. So you do need some scissors because you got to cut this. And let me bring this back a little bit. Move some of this stuff out the way. So I'm just going to take some piece of tape here, and I'm just going to kind of measure how much I need. So about that much. So you don't need much, but make sure you just measure exactly to the part you need. I'm just going to cut it like that. And then you're going to want to make sure that this is really stuck down on it. So you got to really press on it. Press around all the edges, in the middle. You just want to really press because you don't want none of the actual resin to kind of seep out through it. So I'm just going to really press on it. And I'm doing this without using my glove because I want to make sure that it's really in there. So I'm just going to press here. Press it really down the middle. Kind of make sure it's in there. And there. So that right there is in there. So now I'm going to bring that closer so you can see. So here, like I said, I'm going to turn it so you can see it this way. So now you can see it's kind of got a little design. So on this one, you kind of want to think about how you want to color it with your design. So since this is a star and I'm in Texas, I'm going to make the star blue with a little bit of sprinkle, a little bit of glitter. That's why you see here I have some glitter that did not come with my kit, but I just purchased this from, is any craft glitter that I got, you can get from like, you know, Michael's, High Beloved, anywhere that sells glitter here. So this is really fine craft glitter. So I'm gonna take some blue of my UV resin blue here, and I'm gonna actually pour it in here, and then I'm gonna put a little bit of glitter to kind of give it shimmer enough. So this is lapis blue. So I'm just gonna pour, well, let's see. First thing first, let me get back my gloves and my mask, because I think I haven't used this one yet. No, so yeah, so I haven't used it before, so I'm gonna pour this out and just put that on here. And like I said, and now I'm just gonna take one of my gloves actually. So like you see, you're really not touching the resin when you pour it in here. So, because you're just basically pouring directly in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and just pour some in here, just a little bit like that. That should be enough. And then I'm just gonna put a little bit of this actual glitter inside of that one. So, and like I said, make sure you don't have no fan on when you do this, because this glitter is very fine. So I'm just gonna put a little bit in here, like that, just so that way I can see some of the shimmer in there. So now that we got that here, and then like I said, with my toothpick, you can say toothpick works fine. I'm just gonna kind of stir that in like that, so that way you kind of have kind of some type of little shimmery to your resin. And then from there, I'm just gonna pour it inside of here. I'm just gonna pour a little bit and just kind of take my toothpick and do this right there. So see, I probably put too much in it, but that's fine, I can use it. And then same thing, you're gonna actually take here and then have this here. So let me go ahead and speed this up so you don't have to see this again. So I'm gonna speed this up real quick and we'll go from there. Okay, so I did that for 1 minute. So let's see where we're at right now. Okay, so yeah, so it looks like it looks pretty good right here. I'm gonna pick it a little bit. So I did that right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and do it for another minute, just to make sure this was not running. In fact, let me see here. So yeah, so I can look right here. Actually, it's okay. And I'm gonna go ahead and flip it to the back real quick. And I'm gonna let it run on the back of it for another minute. So let me do that real quick. All right, so I did that for a minute in the back. So now that way I know for sure that the back and the front is pretty clear. And you can see right now, it looks pretty right now so far, just doing the middle. So I can pretty much leave it like this, but you want to cover up all your bezel. And since I still have some actual resin left here, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna mix another color in this. So I'm gonna try to see if I can mix, well, you know, I think I see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, I'm gonna go ahead and actually put some of this in here. So I'm gonna probably put a little bit here, just so that way I can use up that resin. And then I'm gonna take some of this I'm actually gonna do this now with the clear UV resin. So I'm gonna do clear UV resin. Let me back that out of frame so you can see. I'm gonna put some clear resin in here. Then just put a little bit here because I know I don't need that much. Right there. And then I'm gonna put in here blue sprinkles. So let me open up here. And with another toothpick, I'm gonna put some blue in there. Cause like I said, just a little bit. That way, oh, let me go ahead and actually close this up. Cause like I said, this is very fine here. But yeah, like I said, UV resin is really fun to play with. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. So yes, I'm just gonna go ahead and mix that real quick. Probably could have put a little bit more resin in there because I don't think I had enough. Just to put it just a little squeeze. That should be enough. There. And then stir that in there. And then we'll go ahead and do it like this. Let me just closer so I can see what's going on. And I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can scrape that in there. Pour some of this into the other one. I see, I think this resin is really thick, so it's kind of hard to pour in here. So I see, I think this is pretty old resin. And that's the thing about when you get stuff overseas, you really don't know how the resin is. I don't think I ever played with that resin. Oh, and one thing I didn't mention too, resin is this one, UV resin is self-leveling, so it will level itself out flat. So you don't have to worry about trying to get it to squeeze through. So go ahead and do this. A little bit there. All right, then I think I'm gonna go ahead and use one of these here. That way I can scrape it a little bit easier into that, because sometimes toothpicks don't always work. So yeah, I'm just gonna pour this part into it. And like I said, that's the thing about UV resin. You gotta kind of know how you want to actually decorate or color coordinate your oval bezel ones. Because like I said, you know, you got all these open space here, so sometimes you gotta know, okay, do I want a color here or here, there? And see right there, now I have one open there. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and probably go ahead and put that as clear. So I'm gonna go ahead and just pour clear directly into it. Just a little bit, and use the nozzle here to kind of spread it out. Okay, and then I'm gonna clean that out. And then with my toothpick, just kind of go ahead and clean toothpick I'll use it and just kind of spread this around a little bit, because I kind of wanted to have it color coordinate just a little bit. So now you see I have plenty of resin left over here. So if you have other bezels, you can kind of pour it into a bezel. I'm just going to go ahead and let it cure. What's this? So let me go ahead and cure this off screen, and I'll come back and we'll, you know, finish up this project. So this is Resin Along with Steffy Jewels. Be right back. Okay guys, so you can see I have finally finished working on this pendant right here. Now, as I kind of was looking at it, I probably should have not had the blue on the outside. Probably should have kept it clear. That way you have a more contrast with the star in the middle and the backside. But once again, like I said, when you work with UV resin, you see something might work and they're like, yeah, it don't work too well. But, you know, that's fine, because like I said, for the video purposes, I just really want to show you how to use, how to make a pendant using UV resin. Now, one thing that I didn't show is I actually put on top of all this another clear layer of UV resin, just to clear it, just so that way I can kind of make sure I definitely sealed the actual glitter on this. So yeah, on here it's really clear. So I'm gonna go ahead and peel this off, and let's see how the back looks. It's really sticky. So you pull it off right here and see right there, if you was to touch this, it is not sticky. So right now it is a flat back. So if I really wanted to, I could actually put a clear layer on the back of this, so that way it can look like this. So it's really up to you. And since this is going to be more of a pendant that I'm going to hang on it with a keychain, or I can hang on a keychain, or as a necklace, this probably be more of a keychain type deal. That way you have the loop here. I really don't have to have the back sealed. But if you want to, you can just take your resin, you cover the whole thing in back, and it'll give you this more dome-like look. So I'm not sure you can see that, but it's kind of have a dome effect to it. It's going to probably be hard with this camera. Yeah, you're probably gonna be able to see that, but it gives it a dome-like look when you add an actual piece of resin on it. So there you have it. That's how you do a pendant using UV resin, whether it's from an open bezel or by using one of your not UV, but one of your resin molds that you might have got in your kit. So once again, if you actually enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, you hit that subscribe button, you hit that thumbs up and comment, and please share this with other folks. As you can see that, yeah, playing with UV resin, you know, it's fun. Like I said, I have done this for a while. And like I said, it just takes some finesse when you start using it. Now, I haven't branched out to the bigger pieces just yet. I still work with the small one, but in some future videos, I am going to do some showing you how to do like, not like the coaster, because, you know, coasters is kind of another type of, you know, thing you can do with resin. But I'm going to do like other little neat little projects. Like I just got some domino molds, and I actually got, let me just show you. I got these molds from my cousin, so I'm gonna actually make my very own domino molds. And I just finally got my other earring mold from overseas, from AliExpress. So I'm probably show you how to do some earrings, or how you actually do your molds with your dominoes. So make sure you hit that like button and subscribe button, and thank you for watching Resin Along with Steffy Jewels. I hope to see you soon. Bye.